Behind all the best loadouts and settings is a skill set that often goes unmentioned. The actual meta is in the mind behind the player, not the equipment. Real hunters build habits deep within their muscle memory so they can execute them in milliseconds. These habits become instincts and develop into split-second reactions. The trick is to mix the brain game with speed. In a time where Warzone hacking is so common, it's easy to forget that players can actually predict your next position. It is possible. No hacks required. Today, I want to show you 10 tactical strategies to develop your game sense, including better prediction. The race is, can you manage your decisions and your awareness in the high-octane matches? Or will you get left in the dust? If you watch experienced players, they seem to effortlessly take down enemies. In reality, some opponents don't even have a chance because they use every surface like a personal body shield. They pick fights they can win and constantly move through surfaces to hide their movement and manipulate opponents' visibility. Using cover management against the enemy is the big brain method to breaking lines of sight and forcing the fight to be unbalanced from the first shot. Switching between the cover to consistently create the fights that you prefer and stop letting enemies run you into their trap. Finding enemies on ground level is incredibly inefficient. Take the high ground to start pinpointing targets and start to predict their rotation. Time your shots to align with enough time to complete the kill before they can escape your fire. Use the vantage point to gather intel so you have the big picture before you push. When possible, take your opening pick before you move in for the next kill. The elevation gives you a farther line of sight, more options towards the push, and greater protection if enemies return fire after the pick. Mapping routes should result in a secondary elevation or an escape plan. You need to decide the best push before we even take the first step, and then be ready to use that backup plan once you get there. Visualize what advantages you'll have once you get to your intended point of attack. Blind pushing with no backup plan makes it too easy for enemies to use their own positioning against you. Things can change drastically in the blink of an eye, so always be ready to change that course or back off altogether if the advantage is no longer enough to continue the fight. Visualizing the enemy is the game sense tactic that looks the most suspicious. It's just math and probability. If an enemy is headed in a direction, it's likely they will continue. Tracking that speed is something that comes with repetition. This anticipation isn't always correct, but the more you visualize enemy movement and learn player instincts, the more successful it will be. Once you have their last known position, we predict their next appearance based on their exit from your field of view. Hold that flank as you close the distance between you and the target. Predicting their positioning can apply sustained pressure as they fall back to plate to only find you at their escape route. The weapon swap should be seamless with each engagement. You want to transition to your SMG for speed and close range, but be ready to engage your elevated targets in a moment's notice. Having the wrong gun out in a fight can severely set you back, so know your weapon's strengths and weaknesses. If you're planning your attack, consider the line of sight that you'll be approaching and switch to the weapon needed for that potential fight as you enter that area. If the area is clear, you can switch back to the close range, but if it's not, you'll already be ready to take the distanced shot. Part of maximizing your environment is not to forget you also need to see. Shifting and peeking through and around cover makes you hard to hit, but also lets you see the puzzle pieces that you need to put together. The more you see, the more you can predict. Small movements to see enemy movements can greatly increase intel while not exposing you too much to defensive gunfire. It is vital that you tactically time your movement and reloads together. Reload in cover when possible, and on the move with gung-ho for best results. Reposition, reload, and replate, in that order. Advanced players know that plates don't matter if you have no ammo in the magazine. Prioritize the offensive tactic for fast pushes. Use the corner slide and cancel your slide to put you in the perfect spot to ambush the enemy. Train your brain to pull locational sounds not just from direction, but by unique surface sounds. Wood, concrete, and tin can all indicate what level they are actually on. Zip ascenders, window breaks, and door slams can all assist with predicting the enemy push, or using unique POI sounds like operating the scanner or hearing the sharp ping of a ladder rung can also help you isolate an enemy to their exact location. Before moving into the open, visually prepare to return fire to power positions. Scan for enemies at normal hot zones to prepare to defend yourself. Running blindly into the open is certain death in areas without cover. Having your crosshairs in place can help you plan routes before you even make the impulsive push. Ultimately, if your crosshairs are where you think the enemy will be, you will start to build the framework of what's called passive aim, which has to do with centering and overall positional centering. Centering is where you naturally leave your crosshairs on the center of your screen, awaiting a surprise enemy, and locational centering is eyeing those normally elevated positions before you make a push into the open. When you have eyes on a target during a pivotal moment, drop locational info for your team so they can assist in the fight. Mastering these callouts is imperative so that your team can pinch an escaping enemy. If you don't have names for the POIs, use descriptive, universal terms to indicate where the enemy is. Learning to communicate information quickly and concisely is the most organic way to start translating that information to your team. Mastering these callouts is imperative so that your team can pinch an escaping enemy. If you don't have names for the POIs, use descriptive words such as desk or second window, second floor. But if you really want to turn things up, adding your own personal code names with the team that you play often will increase the fluidity of your team's communication. Use these 10 Game Sense tips to start building the basis of your tactical strategy. And for those of you new to the SitRep Squad, subscribe so that you're notified whenever we drop new gameplay based around developing you as a player. The situational report released on the channel frequently breaks down Game Sense guides just like these, with full gameplays beginning to end, centering around hot topics like awareness, communication, end game rotations, how to properly push, and more. And very soon we'll be dropping our first situational report on Warzone's greatest map ever. Keep building, keep adapting. SitRep out.